Have you ever felt like you're right next to your partner, but still a little distant? Like you're doing life together, you're handling work, responsibilities, schedules, but not really slowing down enough to just be together. That's kind of where we were before this trip. Nothing was wrong, life was just full. So instead of planning something big or complicated, we decided to keep it simple. A quiet weekend in the North Georgia mountains, just to see what a little space and intention might do. And honestly, by the time we drove home, we knew it had done exactly what we hoped it would. We stayed in a small one-bedroom cabin tucked into the trees near Helen, Georgia. And from the moment we pulled in, everything felt different. No traffic, no background noise, no rushing, just stillness. The kind that makes you realize how tightly wound you've been without even noticing. Inside it was warm and cozy, wood tones, soft lighting, nothing over the top. It didn't feel flashy, it just felt comfortable. The living room, especially the fireplace, quickly became our little gathering place. Mornings started with coffee and slow conversations, and evenings ended with the glow of the fire and nowhere else we needed to be. We played more pool than we expected. What started as a casual game turned into laughing and teasing each other, and those small playful moments that real life sometimes pushes aside. If you've ever taken a trip that unexpectedly brought you closer, let us know what it was and where it was. We're always looking for places like that. The back deck was probably our favorite spot. The hot tub overlooked nothing but trees, and at night, with the steam rising into the cool air, it felt like the world had completely quieted down. Sometimes we talked about big things, and sometimes we just sat there. And honestly, both felt just as meaningful. When you remove distraction, connection starts to feel a lot less complicated. One of the highlights of the trip was visiting the local wineries. We ended up going to Yonah Mountain Vineyards, Serenity Cellars, Creekstone Winery, Limoges, Cellars, and correct me if I'm saying that wrong down in the comments. And we also went to Kaya Vineyard and Winery. Each one had its own personality, but what stood out most to us there were the views. There's just something about sitting across from the person you love, the mountains stretched out in front of you, that shifts the whole tone of a conversation. It slows everything down. It clears your head. And when you're both looking out at God's creation, it naturally draws you closer. At Yonah Mountain, the views were wide and dramatic, and we found ourselves lingering longer than we had planned. Serenity Cellars felt quieter, more tucked away, almost like it invited deeper conversation without even trying. Creekstone had a relaxed vibe that was welcoming and made the afternoon feel easy and unhurried. Limoges gave us one of those simple but meaningful moments where you look across the table and you just think, this is exactly where we're supposed to be right now. And then there was Kaya, with 180-degree mountain views that were honestly breathtaking. It was layer after layer of blue ridge lines stretched across the horizon. It just felt like the mountains kept on going. We didn't rush that one. We sat there, talked, and let the scenery do what it naturally does. Reminds you of how small your stress is and how important the person across from you really is. For us, wine tasting isn't really about the tasting notes. It's about a conversation with a view. If you had to choose one of these based on scenery alone, let me know in the comments which one you would pick. We also hiked Anaruby Falls, and it was honestly even better than we remembered. The trail was peaceful and easy, which meant we weren't focused on the climb. We were focused on walking side by side with each other. As the sound of the water got louder and the falls finally came into view, it felt grounding in a way that's hard to explain. Standing there together, watching the water cascade down, was one of those quiet moments that sticks with you. There's something about moving forward together on a trail that feels symbolic, steady, shared, and very intentional. If you've been to Anaruby Falls, you know exactly what we mean. Also went up to Brasstown Bald, which is the highest point in Georgia. Because of the time of year, the shuttles to the observation deck weren't running, so we weren't able to make it all the way up like we had planned. But honestly, it didn't ruin the experience. We still enjoyed the mountain air, the elevation, and the views we could see. It turned into a good reminder that not everything has to go perfectly to be meaningful. Sometimes connection is just about choosing to make the most of what's in front of you. And that's exactly what we did on this trip to Brasstown Bald. We even got to make a little snowman as there was still snow on the ground from some previous weather that had passed through. By the end of the weekend, we realized what made this trip so impactful. It wasn't luxury, it wasn't a packed schedule, it wasn't even perfect conditions. It was the space. The laughter over pool games, the long conversations overlooking vineyards, the quiet moments in the hot tub, the sound of the waterfall, and the mountain air. Something we do on this channel is a connection rating. That's where we rate the trip based on how we felt like it enabled us to connect as a couple. This one was a 9.5 out of 10. This trip reminded us that romance isn't about grand gestures or flawless plans. It's about protecting time, choosing to be present, and slowing down enough to really see each other again. If this kind of intentional travel resonates with you, would you give this video a like? It's really going to help us keep sharing places that create space like this for other couples. And if you want more trips focused on connection, subscribe to the channel and join us on our next adventure. And we'll see you next time as we explore and connect.